Okay, so imagine for a moment that you were really good at a sport. I know for some of you, you don't even have to imagine that. Maybe you are really good at a sport. But I mean like really, really good. Okay, so you're on a team that is going to be, like one of my kids last hour actually has a chance to be on a nationals team. Nationals, like that's all. Competing against literally is 1 million high school students that could be on that team. Okay, so that's insanely good. Now, could you be really, really good at a sport and not be able to do one of the key things? Like, for instance, could you be really, really good at hockey but not be able to skate backwards? No. You would not be considered really good at hockey. You might even be amazing at everything except at one thing, but then people would go, ha, you can't even skate backwards. Okay, what if you were really good at basketball, but you couldn't dribble? Like you could shoot, you could pass just fine, you understood the plays, but you couldn't literally bounce the ball. Now you might be like, well, I can bounce it, but like every time you tried to dribble, somebody could steal it from you because you were that bad at dribbling. Well, then you wouldn't be good at basketball, right? Well, my job is to help you not have those kind of weaknesses in math. Like if you can't factor this thing, that's like a weakness that's just as bad as the basketball player who can't bounce the ball. Like you could be good at other things, but if you can't do this, this is so critical. All right. This is one of a bunch of things. In math, you have to be good at like literally 200 things on the ACT test. On the MCA test, which is coming for some of you tomorrow, or not tomorrow, sorry, the next couple school days, somewhere like Tuesday or Wednesday next week, we have the MCA test. For some of you, that's your chance to show that you know what you're doing. And I totally get that some of you are going to be like, this is some stupid test that the state makes you take, and I don't really care, and I'm not going to even try. So we've decided to give you, and this isn't just my decision, this is the whole math department with the encouragement of the administration. And so we have a number of points that you can get in the summative part of your grade. And some kids can even test out of the final. Do well enough on the MCA test, you can test out of the final in this class. On the MCA test. On the MCA test, if you can do well enough, some of you will be able to not take the final. Now, I have to get cleared with the principal on exactly who, if it's only juniors who can do that by a good enough score on the MCA test, or if it's also available for the other kids. But here's what I can guarantee you is available for the other kids. For everybody in this room, if you decide to take the practice MCA or the real MCA, either one, then if you do well enough on it, you're going to get test points added to your score. So whatever your grade is right now, I'm sure there's a few of you that could use a few free summative points added into your grade. Okay, extra credit is really rare. Like I never give extra credit. And this is something the principal is saying, okay, they kind of made a deal with the math department and said, here's how many points I want you to give them. All right, so I'll show you that point scale later. But for right now, there's another reason you care. What's another reason? Because if you know how to factor, then next year is going to go way better. Some of you are going to try to take pre-calc next year. And I know some people even in here took pre-calc and were like, man, that class was too hard, so you dropped to this class, which I understand. We can get you through this class first, then you can go to pre-calc. How many of you actually have thinking about signing up for pre-calc for next year? It's tentatively, that's what you're hoping to do. All right. If you want to take pre-calc next year, you need to know how to factor. It's like one of the number one things. All right, so the next step here was, since there's a negative, I got to have a negative. And then, is there two negatives? No. If there was two negatives, think about it. The two numbers here would turn positive right there. So there cannot be two negatives. You have to use logic like that. Now I know it's a minus and a plus, and the last thing I can do is figure out what multiplies to an 8. That's not that hard. Some kids sadly say 7 and 1 because they think it adds to that. No, it's an 8 and a 1. And which way does it go? You never know till you try. I'm going to put it like this, and I go outside, 1x. Inside, negative 8x. Does that together make 7x? No, it doesn't. What does it make? Okay, there's 4 people looking at the wall. There's a problem. Look this way, okay? Don't be all distracted back there, please. Otherwise, you're not sitting in the right spots, and I'm going to make you go back where you were. Okay, so back to this. This comes up to negative 7x. Is that the same as 7x? No, it's not. Math rewards careful people. That's negative 7x total. So that means that the signs switch. So this can't be positive and this can't be negative. The negative becomes a positive and the positive becomes a negative. There we go. Now it's actually right. And even that isn't enough to get it all the way right because that's factored right, but it isn't the final answer. The final answer is x equals negative 8 and x equals 1. And those are called the zeros, the roots, the solutions, and the x-intercepts. That's 4 different things. You're not on your cell phone right now, are you?
That was.
Thanks for being honest. Put up in phone jail, and then I won't let you or anything. All right. So Nolan, I just gave 4 names for this. Can you give me 3 out of the 4 names even? Come on, you can do this. What? Those things are called the
Zeros?
Yes, that's one of them. All right, call on somebody else to make them give an answer. Pick anybody. Force them to give an answer. Zeros and... All right, I'll pick somebody. Xavier, what's another name for this? The zeros and the...
X-intercept.
X-intercepts, good. X-intercept zeros, and there's 2 more names. Daniel.
I was gonna say x-intercept.
Sure you go, sure you go. Okay, so x-intercept zeros, and there's one that starts with an R. Roots. Very good. The roots, the x-intercepts, the zeros, and the
What does it start with?
S. Solution, there it is. Nice job. All right, so those 4 things on the ACT or on the MCA test, they could say, what are the zeros? They could say, what are the solutions? They could say, what are the roots? They could say, what are the x-intercepts? And you just answered any of those 4 questions. All right, so that's factoring. That's one of the most important skills. Here's another one that tons of people have forgotten. Do you get that can factor 2, but only one set of parentheses? Something is in common. Do you remember the name for it? It's got 3 letters. The question would say, find the 3 letters. I'll give you the word for it, maybe you can give me the 3 letters. Find the greatest common factor. The GCF, there it is. What's in common on all of them? Sophia, what's in common on all of them? X comes out, then the hard part is what's left. Trevor, 3 things. Yep. Plus A, keep going. And then what do I put in front of the 1? Plus 1, there it is. Now look what happens if I multiply it out. X squared, XA or AX, and X. See? There. Do you get, now that you see how it's done, it's actually pretty easy? But a lot of you were sitting there looking at it going, I don't know what to do. This is why 2 minutes of review can help you do so much better on the MCAs. All right, so the MCA is a test that the state of Minnesota requires high schools to administer, and then they kind of judge you a little bit on your results. If you have a really high score on the MCA, they're saying, oh, you guys are doing a great job teaching the kids. And so why do you care? Well, you guys are going to go off to college. And when you apply to college, you're going to say, I got, I don't know, what's your GPA? 3.8 GPA from Minnetonka High School. If Minnetonka High School has bad scores, the colleges know that, and they factor that in and say, oh, well, Minnetonka isn't actually rated that high, you know, because there was a lot of other school districts that were better than Minnetonka. Well, how do you judge? MCA scores. This test that you're about to take on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's how colleges decide who has really good school. And a lot of you guys know we have a good school here, but if you just slack on the test and are like, I don't care, it doesn't really matter. Well, number 1, you're going to miss out on points that we're going to offer, written on the board here. Number 2, you might have missed a chance to test out of the final. Again, it depends on, only certain kids might qualify for that. It might only be juniors, but I am still checking with the head of the math department to find out that answer. But but I just want you to know there's a chance of that. And some of you are like, but wait a minute, I'm not a junior. I'm not going to be taking the math part of the MCA. Then you will have to decide after lunch today. We'll take this practice MCA. And you'll have to decide, do I want to take a practice MCA? Because when the MCAs happen, you're either going to be forced to take them because you're a junior, or you're going to be sitting there going, okay, I guess all the juniors should take the MCA. And you could have a study hall. Now, I know some of you are like, oh, that's what I want. Okay, and I can't make you take a practice MCA. I'm just trying to give you an option. If you want to take that practice MCA, you can get these points too, even though it's just a practice MCA. All right, so we're trying to throw a bone towards you to say, hey, if you're willing to try on this, we're willing to give you some points. I'll give you a few reasons besides the state of Minnesota cares. You should care because it's on your ACT tests are the same basic stuff. And you should care about this because you personally are going to have to take a college math entrance test someday. And they're going to say, okay, based on our test you just took, and you're saying you're going to St. Olaf, we have decided that you have to take the lowest math class that there is. And you're going to have to take a whole semester of that. And then you can go take the class that your friends are in, and they're going to be starting with that. That's going to be embarrassing and frustrating. And you're going to be like, dang it, I wish I would have studied a little harder in math, because now I wouldn't have to take this stupid, really low math class. That's a reason to care about this too, is every senior, once they are picked to college and they're going off to that college, they get sent this thing saying, okay, here's your moment. You have to take this test, and by the results of this, we will place you in your first semester class. You can't just say, I'm picking Calculus 2. They go, nope, you're taking a placement test. Things like this are on the placement test. All right, I'm going to give you one more problem, and I will answer the two hands. Just let me give a problem so that kids that are sitting out there thinking, what is next, Mr. Server? I got that last one. +1 equals -1. A lot of people right here don't even know how to start. Okay, questions? Jack, you had a question.
I just wanted to say that if you got into that low class, then you'd also have to pay extra because you're in that class.
Ooh, brutal. I bet you there are colleges that say, since this isn't one of our normal classes and it's like a remedial class, you have to pay for a whole semester of this, and it doesn't just count with their other classes. I could see that happen. Well, my kids usually told me, my children who went off to college, they said it was just so nice if you could test out of a class, because then you could either have a semester off when other people had to take that class, or you could take a higher class that you wanted to get to. So it never hurts to test higher on that math placement test that you'll have to take when you're a senior. So you have many more big math tests in front of you, the MCAs, the ACT, and a placement test when you go off to college. Now, for some of you that aren't going to college, this is even the kind of basics. I have it's my nephew. He went off to be an electrician. And you might be like, well, they don't have to go to college. Yeah, but they have to pass a math test. Otherwise, the electrician school won't take them. So even to get into a trade school, you have to pass a math test. I helped another guy in my neighborhood who wanted to be an electrician because, again, didn't want to go to regular college. Totally cool. And electricians make good money. It's a cool job. But they had to pass a math test. So he's like, I suck at math. Can you tutor me on that? And I did. And it worked pretty well. He learned everything he needed to know. But this is the stuff. The cool part is in this class at this level, I'm teaching you stuff that's on every single test that you're going to take in the future. These are the basics. And who knew that you were supposed to add 1 to both sides? Raise your hand if you knew you were supposed to add 1. Excellent, because you want it equal to 0. Now that it's equal to 0, now what do you do? If you can factor it, you should. It's right there on the wall. I really appreciate the kid who made that for me so I can just point to that. If you can factor it, you should. It factors. Take a second. Factor it. And then you'll be able to get the roots, the zeros, the x-intercepts, the solutions. So I'm trying to give you a reason to care instead of just saying, here's math, do it because you have to. It can really make a difference in your life. It really can. I'm not saying you're going to be up on a hillside solving these problems for fun, but to be able to get into places you want to be, like maybe it's you want to get into the Army, and then they give you an ASVAB test. And then they're like, I'm sorry, you're not very bright, so we can't put you in anything except like, I don't know, in the trenches in the front line. You didn't test into any of the cool things because your scores weren't that good. Okay? Or maybe it's for some of you, I want to get into this college. Like I want to get into a decently high level college. Well, then you probably got to show them that you're good at this by passing it on the MCA. Or sorry, not the MCA, the ACT. So for different kids, you'll care for different reasons. All right, did you say X and X and plus and plus? That part should have been really easy. And then this last part, kind of easy too, if you just think I gotta multiply to 2. There's only 2 numbers that multiply to 2. It's gotta be a 1 and a 2. And so then I just check it, make sure the outside and the inside, 2x and 1x, make 3x. It worked! Yay! I got 3x, so then that means x equals -1, x equals -2. But can you name the 4 names for those? I reviewed them earlier this hour. Who thinks they got at least 3 of the 4? Avery, give me 3 of the 4. Roots, solutions. Nope, they're not. Those are not factors anymore. Once they come out of these are factors, but once they come out and they're like individual numbers, they're not factors. Roots, solutions. Did you say another one? I missed it.
No,
That's all right. You got 2 out of the 4. That's not bad. And not many kids even tried. Ava. X-intercepts. Anybody get the last one? Zeros. Nice job. Those. All right. Now, what if you get one, and you will, on the quiz today that we're taking after lunch, and it's like practice for the MCAs? What if you get one that doesn't factor? Like that? Doesn't factor. I'm going to put a 1 there. No, you can't just leave it and say that's the answer. Nope. There is answers. It just doesn't come from factoring. So I know most of you now know that if you can factor it, you should. Well, you know the follow-up. What if you can't factor it? Then you got to use the, starts with the Q. You had a test on it. Quadratic formula. Very good. Now, I swear at least half of you are going to have forgotten this. X equals -b is how this starts, but see if you can do the rest of it. Don't say it. Don't say it out loud. I want to see who's got it memorized. Try it. You had a whole chapter on this in first semester. Just to get people going a little further. Tate, you got the next part. Next, x equals -b.
And then plus or minus the square root.
Good, stop. I want to see if people can finish it. And I get it. You might not have learned this at your school, or maybe you learned it and you forgot it, but you gotta know this one. It's gonna be on any good math test, the quadratic formula. Because quadratics are the most common function other than the super easy ones like just that have an x in them. X squared is the next level. So if you're gonna be on a decently hard math test, these will be on there. Jack, you got the underneath the root part?
Yep.
What is it?
Squared minus 4ac.
Boom. And then wait. Who can finish it? You know what? 2a. That's it. That is the quadratic formula. Now, it's so easy to use. All you got to do is stick in a, b, and c, which are 1, 3, and 1. A, b, and c. In that order, the black one in the front, that's the a. This is the b, and this is the c. All right. It is about lunchtime. We'll resume this after lunch and take a little practice. MCA. All right, so we're back from lunch. Everybody's got scratch paper. Everybody's got something to write with. And this was just a quick reminder of when you have this problem. This one is on the quiz. Not the same numbers, but very similar. You start by setting it equal to 0, right? It has to equal 0. And then this is A. This is B, and this is C. A lot of times people think they have an X in them. They do not. A is 1, B is 3, C is 1. Okay, so I'm looking for B right now because I want to start that. And the B is 3, so I'd put a 3 there and a 3 there. And then the A is a 1. 4 times 1 times C is a 1. Oh, that's pretty easy. And then A is also a 1. There we go. See, anybody in here could have simplified that as long as you knew the formula. 9 minus 4 is 5, and over 2 times 1, is 2. And there's the answer. I know that looks weird, but that's the top part gets entered on one line, and the bottom part on another line. Any questions about that? That is called the quadratic formula. It's how you solve quadratics when they don't factor. Jackson.
I don't know if you mentioned, is this any formative or some of the points like this one or not?
That is a fair question. The thing that you're about to take is not summative because I would have wanted to give you at least 24 hours notice. So this is counting, but it's counting in a part of the formative called algebraic foundations. So bottom line, it counts in your grade, but it only counts like homework. Okay, so do your best, and if you do badly on it, I will let you retake it if you want to. Now, this is the part where I'd like you all to get started together. I will answer your question, but in a second. So find the Schoology quiz. It is in today's folder, and I think it's active and can be started. Can somebody make sure it's enabled?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Go ahead and start. Whatever you don't finish right now, in theory, you should have enough time. But I get some kids work slower than others, and you can finish it as homework. But ideally, you'll finish it right now. This is not like a normal test. You can ask me. I can give you a hint, but I'm not gonna like tell you the answer to questions. But you can ask me for hints if you want. I'll give you a hint here or there. All right, that's all I have for you for today. So the only thing you have to do if you missed today is go in and do that Schoology quiz, and that's all I got for you for today.